By now, anyone can write a Donald Trump speech. Pick any topic, literally any topic, the border, a budget bill, the ballroom, and add this.
Now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever.
That is basically a Trump speech, except it doesn't work. And it really doesn't work in war. Because here's Donald Trump claiming that we've won the war in Iran.
We've won this. This war has been won.
That was Tuesday. At least he's predictable. Trump claims we've won, and also that he's negotiating with Iran, and also that he's pausing any actions to facilitate negotiations, and also that Iran has been denying that there are even negotiations, and mocking Trump with memes of fake text threads in which Donald Trump is texting only with himself. Trump is saying that we've won because that's what he always says about everything. If we've won, why is Trump sending more troops to the region? Why is he raising the Army's enlistment age limit? Why are the casualty numbers going up? Trump says we could open the Strait of Hormuz and restore the global oil flow at any time, except it's not open. And everyone can see that at their local gas station because the prices keep going up. $4 a gallon now. That's a national average price, $5.70 in California. The Guardian reports, quote, the former head of Iran desk at Israel's military intelligence, Danny Citrinowicz, predicted that by the expiry of Trump's latest 10-day deadline, Iran would not surrender, would not accept the 15-point framework, would not relinquish control of the Strait of Hormuz, and would continue attacks on Israel and the Gulf states. After that, Trump will face a decisive choice, a further escalation of tensions, a retreat, or a push for a negotiated settlement similar to the one that Iran offered in March. The UN is not going to sanction the use of force to reopen the strait. Europe will not participate, and the G7 will not endorse it. So what will America's self-styled big winning president do then? Trump lies like he breathes. We all know that. But war is different, and lies about war are different. As the editorial board of the New York Times recently wrote, lies about war also make it harder to achieve victory. The more one spreads falsehoods, the less one feels obliged to face reality. In retrospect, Americans understand that their leaders' refusal to confront the truth in Iraq and Vietnam led to strategic errors. The pattern is repeating. Before Mr. Trump began this war, he brushed aside warnings from his top military advisors that Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz to traffic it, that it does not approve. The global economy is now dealing with the consequences of his overconfidence, and yet he may yet learn a more personal lesson about lying in war. Lyndon Johnson and George W. Bush will forever be remembered as having misled Americans about U.S. military action. They learned that falsehoods can boomerang on them and the leaders who tell them. And we've got breaking news this hour out of the Middle East. MS Now can report that a U.S. airbase has been hit in an attack by Iranian ballistic missiles and drones. That's according to a U.S. official. According to an initial assessment, roughly a dozen U.S. troops have been injured. Aircraft were also damaged in the attack, including at least 2 U.S. tankers. Joining me now is Aaron David Miller, Senior Fellow at the Carnegie Institute for International Peace and a former Arab-Israeli negotiator. Aaron, good to see you again. You know, a few months ago, you and I were saying, somewhat hopefully, that Donald Trump was able to stand up to Benjamin Netanyahu and create a deal that may ultimately, not likely, but may lead to some kind of settling of tensions in the Middle East. What happened? How is this the same guy?
He's been the same guy, Ali. I mean, he's a president whose priorities are money, power, and glory. And while Donald Trump didn't succumb to the temptations of Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister, I think, on this one was pushing on an open door. Donald Trump wanted this. He wanted to demonstrate American power in the wake of the grab and go of Maduro. He went to war based on false and unproven claims. Iran was not within weeks of producing a nuclear weapon, as the president said. Iran did not have an intercontinental ballistic missile capable of hitting the United States, as the president said. Iran was not about to preemptively strike America, as the president said. And now he has, a month into this war, the assumptions on which it was based are also proven to be false. Number one, America has escalation and dominance, and yet the Iranians have extraordinary capacity. They're weaponizing geography, Ali. They've identified the weak points, and tonight was another tragedy. 2 servicemen seriously wounded, and a number of others are very seriously wounded, according to reports, and a number of others seriously wounded. The Iranians have capacity, number one. And number two, so far, and the headlines seem to be the trend line here, the Iranian regime has essentially held together. And far from finding an Iranian Delcy Rodriguez, as my colleague Karim Sedgwick says, Trump's encountered an Iranian Kim Jong-un. And not just one Kim Jong-un. It would be actually quite extraordinary and to America's benefit if there was a single legitimate authorized Iranian decision maker that could essentially commit Iran to negotiations or whatever the president wants to do, but there's not. So the president, a month in, finds himself in a box, and I see no chance of a negotiated settlement, which leaves the deployment of American combat forces somewhere around 10,000 by the time we're done. And you don't deploy them, Ali, to bluff.
Yeah.
He's going to use them.
Yeah, so you make an interesting point. You said whether this leads to negotiations or whatever it is the president wants. What a weird situation to be in. You've dealt with the Middle East for decades. We've often not gotten it right, probably gotten it wrong more than we've gotten it right, but there was always some sense of a collective goal. This is what's unclear in this war. We're just not sure whose war it is, who wants it, who benefits from it, and what success actually looks like in this thing. And we weren't done with negotiations with Iran. We may not have been making massive strides, but we weren't done yet. Choosing to go to war over negotiations is a big and important decision.
Agreed. And in fact, the administration has wandered all over the parking lot on this one. I mean, a war of choice, this is the tragedy. A war of choice, which was essentially a trilateral affair among Israel, Iran, and the U.S., has now become, I'm afraid, tragically, a war of necessity, because it is now a global international crisis. And the key goal now is to open the straits. And there are only 2 ways to do that. Negotiate with the Iranians, and I don't think Trump's prepared to pay their price, or somehow change Iran's calculation. Maybe the Iranians are delusional. Trump wants to change their calculation and basically convince them they're not winning, that he's winning. And that requires a demonstration of escalation and American power, and it's going to require, and this is where it all breaks down for me, I don't know what the purpose and the mission of just under 10,000 American forces are. To do what? Yeah, we could seize Kharg Island. You could blow it up. You could seize any number of the smaller islands that guard the entrance to the straits. But then what? I mean, they're 15, 20 miles off the coast of Iran. A launch time from a drone, from launch to impact, with that distance is 20 to 30 seconds. So he's about to put Americans, as General McChrystal said, you can't change your regime from 30,000 feet. What he's doing now, he's going to put Americans 6 feet away from hostile forces. And I'm afraid it's not going to end well.
Aaron, once again, I always say one day we'll talk about good things, but I don't know if it's going to be in this life. One day we will. It's good to see you, my friend, as always. Aaron David Miller.